We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including all kinds of speculation for off-season movement, whether it be UFA or via trade. We're going to take a look at some trade talk today involving teams like the Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, Anaheim Ducks, Buffalo Sabres, Ottawa Senators, and a few others, including the Islanders and St. Louis Blues. We had a trade earlier today, which we'll discuss a little further, in Trevor Zegras to the Philadelphia Flyers. Some UFA talk around players like Brock Boeser, John Tavares, and a few others. Plus, we have some signings today as well, and some updates regarding the Hockey Hall of Fame. The announcement for the 2025 class is coming tomorrow. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. All kinds of speculation, a little bit of news, and then we'll get into the UFA and trade talk here as well. But first I want to start with tomorrow is the Hockey Hall of Fame announcement for who's going to be in the induction class for 2025. Obviously, there's still lots of older veterans that have been out of the league a long time that still haven't gotten their call yet. I know a guy like Keith Tkachuk comes to mind, for example, and there's certainly a bunch of others too. But there's going to be a lot of interesting first-time players eligible for this year's draft class into the Hockey Hall of Fame. You have a lot of guys, including Shea Weber and Carey Price, both former Montreal Canadiens. Some other goalies, including Tuukka Rask and Braden Holtby, Zdeno Chara, Ryan Getzlaf, Duncan Keith, Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza, PK Subban. It's going to be a pretty interesting group. Obviously, some of those guys I think might have a shot to get in down the road, but you're probably looking at like Joe Thornton. To me, is he didn't get a Stanley Cup, but man, he did a lot of other great things in his career. Duncan Keith was certainly at the top of his class as a defenseman for a period of time, as a lot of Stanley Cups on his name. Of course, Chara was dominant for a long period of time. Carey Price was a dominant goalie. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's certainly plenty of names that could be in as a first ballot Hall of Famer here, and not to mention all the other names that are still out there from years past that haven't gotten their call yet. So going to be an interesting group for sure. Hard to say who exactly gets in, but let me know your thoughts on who you think is going to be in the 2025 Hockey Hall of Fame class down in the comments below. As I mentioned before, you probably saw a video on the channel earlier. If you didn't, you can certainly watch it after this one. But we do have a trade to happen earlier today with the Anaheim Ducks finally trading Trevor Zegras. He's on his way to join his old best buddy, Jamie Drysdale, with the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers sent Ryan Poehling and 2 draft picks, including a 2025 second and a 2026 fourth to the Ducks for Zegras, who, of course, was a high pick back in the 2019 draft, and after 6 years in Anaheim, it was time for a change. I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner, but I think part of the Ducks' reasoning for holding on to him, one, they wanted to see if he could change his game and kind of become a more complete player, and I think they're also hoping for a bounce-back campaign to see if his value would increase as well. As you can tell by that return, might seem a little bit underwhelming for a guy that's got so much skill like he does, but the last couple of years haven't been kind to Zegras with combination of injuries and his production. If you look at how that lineup is shaping up in Anaheim, Pat Verbeek made it clear his top 2 centermen were going to be Leo Carlsson and Mason McTavish. You've already got Ryan Strome, who's a really good number 3 center. So there's really no option for Zegras to be a centerman with that group. They've already got a decent amount of wingers, and they're rumored to be kind of big game hunting around some of the other ones, including Mitch Marner in free agency, which makes Zegras kind of expendable here. So he gets a fresh start. He goes to Philly. I mean, like I said, he's reunited with his best buddy, Jamie Drysdale. Pretty good chance he might be able to play on a line with a guy like Matvei Michkov. That could be a very high-skilled line. I do wonder how he'll make out with a head coach like Rick Tocchet. Guys like Michkov and Zegras, they're not exactly guys that scream Rick Tocchet kind of guys when you think about what Tocchet prefers and how he likes to play and all that. But clearly, he's going to have to make some adjustments having some of these highly skilled players there. I mean, Danny Briere would have consulted with the new coach to some degree, at least, before making this acquisition. So I think hopefully it works out. Zegras needs that fresh start, and hopefully the Flyers are the team that can hopefully help him find more success. A few other signings and news and notes around the league today. The Dallas Stars extended Cole Lynn on a 1-year, 2-way contract, mostly played in their minor league system. Likely will continue with that. Maple Leaf prospect Topi Niemela signs a 1-year contract to head back to Sweden. That's another prospect. I think Hervonen had done the same thing not too long ago as well. So some of the prospects who have spent a couple years in North America with the minor league system not working out and heading back to Europe. The Boston Bruins also signed Mason Lohrei to a 2-year contract at $3.2 million. He put up 33 points in 77 games last year. Not sure what I think of this contract. I think Lohrei has long-term potential to be potentially higher-end defenseman for the Bruins. The potential is there. I do wonder with a rising cap if they might regret not going longer term. If he continues to develop well and his point production increases, he'll certainly be able to command a much bigger a piece of the pie here in a couple of years' time. But we'll see how things work out for the Bruins and Mason Lohrei. The Calgary Flames signed Justin Kirkland to a 1-year deal at $900,000. Today as well, or I think it was $950 if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Kirkland was their nominee as well for the Masterton this year. The Rangers signed Adam Enstrom, 2-year deal at $975. That's pretty well the same deal they gave to Matt Rempe just not too long ago. We also got word today the New York Islanders have hired Rocky Thompson to be their new head coach for the Bridgeport team in the American Hockey League. So obviously Rocky Thompson has a pretty good track record with younger players. Prior to this, he's been an assistant with the Flyers for the past 3 years. He's been a head coach on multiple occasions before with the OHL's Windsor Spitfires, where he won a Memorial Cup. So had a good run there in junior with Windsor. He also coached the Chicago Wolves who was the Vegas affiliate at the time. Chicago, I think he was there for 3 years as well. Led them to a Calder Cup final in 2019. Plenty of other relevant coaching experience as an assistant between different levels of pro hockey. He was also actually technically, I'm not sure if he really gets credit, but he technically was involved with another Memorial Cup championship, and that was in 2022 when the St. John Sea Dogs won. They actually, because they were hosting the Memorial Cup, they lost early in the playoffs, in the Quebec League playoffs, fired their coach, hired Gardner McDougall, who's now the coach of the Moncton Wildcats. Gardner came in and Rocky Thompson came in as an advisor, and they worked on that together, getting the team ready for the Memorial Cup, and then hosted and won. So a lot of people might forget that. He might not be down much in the history books, but he was certainly a part of it and played a role with helping them prepare and get ready to be champions again. So all in all, I think, like I said, he's got a pretty good track record with younger players between junior and the American Hockey League, has some NHL experience. Actually, he coached, like I said, a few other spots as an assistant. He was with the Sharks for a while too, with Bob Bugner. So certainly a pretty good option here, I think, for them to be their head coach for Bridgeport. We also got word today, we already mentioned it, but it's now officially been announced that the Minnesota Wild have brought in Greg Cronin, former head coach of the Anaheim Ducks, who was recently let go. He will be their new head coach for Iowa. And it's believed that part of the reason why Cronin was let go in Anaheim after a 20-point improvement in the standings was really how he interacted with the players. I really don't think there was a lot of happy players there. And there was a lot of reports of different, just the way he handled himself, the way he interacted with the players. It just really wasn't. I think Pat Verbeek even had talked to him earlier in the campaign. There's a lot of stuff that had come out afterwards. So hopefully he's kind of learned some things, and we'll take that into account with his next stop here in Iowa. Now, a bunch of other, I guess we'll call it the UFA and trade talk. We'll start with some UFA stuff first. Brock Boeser, of course, current Vancouver Canuck, expected to test free agency. There is a slim chance he stays in Vancouver, but all likelihood things are indicating that most likely he's going to end up leaving. Teams that have been linked to him include the Minnesota Wild, which is no big surprise, a hometown team. They've been linked to him forever. Also hearing teams like LA and San Jose, and even to some degree the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Sens have been linked to a bunch of players here lately, according to David Pagnotti of the fourthperiod.com, which is surprising because based on what they have for internal space, and they're still trying to sign Giroux. I'm not shocked that they might try to make another upgrade, but they're linked to a lot of players. They're obviously not going to go after and try to make deals for all of them, but Boeser would be an interesting option. He's believed to be looking at Somewhere around $8 million. I'm not sure that Ottawa would want to do that. I know the report from Peg noted with some of these teams like the Sens, Kings, Sharks might be more interested in Boeser on a shorter term. So I guess we'll see if anything materializes, but that's the latest on him. John Tavares, as we reported, still not close with the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's still a big gap there. Nothing really changed on that today, but we are hearing if he makes it to free agency on July 1, expect a team like Utah might be an interesting team to make a play for him. Even if they don't figure it out via trade sooner, it wouldn't even be shocking to see a team like Montreal kind of swoop in and see if he'd be interested in going there. They're looking for a number 2 center, and they'd have lots of great prospects. He could be a stopgap for a short term. I'm not sure what the contract would look like. Probably only want to do a couple years, but those are some teams that might, and I stress might, reach out to be in the mix for his services if he makes it there. Now, lots of other talk around. Obviously, lots around trades. Let's start with J.J. Peterka, obviously getting a ton of interest. There's a high level. A lot of teams linked. The latest teams that we're hearing on him include Ottawa, Vancouver, Utah, Calgary, Chicago, Tampa, Islanders, just to name a few. I'm sure there's probably more, but Peterka's interest level is high. The reports out of Buffalo that they still aren't real crazy about trading him, but it feels like they might have not a choice to do so. I don't really know what teams are offering right now, but there's obviously a high level of interest. When it comes to some of the teams that are linked here, I do wonder, a team like the Islanders, because there's been a lot of talk that they're quietly shopping Noah Dobson. Dobson might be the type of player it takes to get a guy like Peterka out of Buffalo. Would they do that? I mean, obviously the Sabres, if you look, because they're expected to trade Bo Byram, they still have Dahlin, they still have Power. Now, if they're going to give him anywhere near what he's looking for, that's a pretty big contract. I don't know. I mean, it makes me wonder how they might change the mix of their blue line, but certainly just some thoughts there. I wonder if that would be something that Buffalo would consider. Obviously, if the Islanders want Peterka, it might take a player like that to get it done. Looking at some of the other teams, it's kind of not really clear yet. The Blackhawks were believed to have maybe even discussed the 3rd overall pick in the draft. So far, that hasn't gone anywhere as right now either. So the Sabres are really holding tight here to see what they can do. There's also believed with a number of teams. Actually, the Rangers are another team I forgot to mention on Peterka. They're very, very, very interested there as well, and are not afraid to offer roster players to give the Rangers something back of who can play right away. Teams that are not going to be successful in landing Peterka, according to some, might turn their attention to Jordan Kyrou in St. Louis. He's another player to watch who's got a no trade, no move clause kicking in here. And, the Blues are not, I don't know if they're completely sold on him as a player for the next, 7-8 years. I do wonder if the right offer came along that they would consider that. And I know there were some reports earlier that the Blues might be a team poking around on Dobson. Again, we don't know that they're having specific discussions about, Kyrou, for example, but like I said, the belief is that the Blues are kind of poking around, kind of wondering. So I just kind of piece that together and wonder if there's any kind of chance they would consider that. Kyrou would be a great player for the New York Islanders. So we'll have to take a look at that. The Sabres are going to be quite interesting. So we know that outside of Peterka, that Byram's going to be dealt somewheres. It could help if they do land a guy like Dobson. Then obviously that would be a complete change in their decor. And as far as the Blues goes, they're poking around. So hard to say how all that kind of shakes out, but that's some conversations that are ongoing there. Now, we know the Islanders are also continue to be having dialogue with Boston and Philly. The Islanders still, by the sounds of things, trying to land another first rounder. There's really no further updates on that here today, but still something that's being discussed. I know with St. Louis, back to them for a moment here. I know Joel Hofer is going to be interesting. He's an RFA goaltender. Wondering, I know the belief is that he's probably going to sign in St. Louis, and there's not expected to be movement per se, but I do wonder if the Blues are poking around on trying to get another top defenseman. A team like Philly definitely needs a goaltender. I wonder if Philly would be interested in Hofer, if they would try to get a defenseman out of Philly. I don't know. And we know Doug Armstrong really likes Travis Sanheim after the selection for Team Canada and everything. I don't know that the Flyers would want to do that. That might be a little too rich, but just some food for thought there that they could be having some conversations. Rasmus Anderson still getting a lot of attention as well. According to Frank Saravalli, he's and Dave Pagnotta both saying that Rasmus Anderson getting a lot of play right now. Again, linking teams like Columbus, Carolina, Dallas, and Ottawa. Again, Ottawa might be looking to make a move on the right side of their decor with the, I guess, uncertainty over the health of Nick Jensen. He looks like he's recovering well from the surgery, both based on some social media posts, but if they can find a way to upgrade, maybe they consider that. I'm not sure, but they're in on a lot of guys right now. I don't know if they're going to end up pulling any of it off, but interesting nonetheless. Carolina, Columbus, I can see maybe even having a better chance to make that move, but Anderson's got 1 year left, just over $4 million on his contract, probably looking for a raise close to double that on his next deal. So be interesting to see what happens with Rasmus Anderson, but the trade talk around him is picking up. And of course, we know the Ducks, like I said, traded Zegras today. Obviously, they were already in pretty good shape with their cap. Now they get a bunch more money available after the Zegras contract goes. Certainly seems like there are kind of planning for a massive move this offseason. We know they're expected to be a team that makes a big play for Mitch Marner. If they're not successful, and based on what we're hearing around Marner, it sounds like he might be open to the Ducks, but I'm going to say he's probably the Ducks would probably be like, I'm going to guess third or fourth choice right now, based on how I think Vegas and LA seem to be the top two from what everybody's saying. So we'll see. If they don't get Marner, wondering if they could turn their attention to Jason Robertson. Now, again, with Dallas, I know the word is that they're not in a rush to trade him. They're kind of, same thing that we had heard about Dobson, kind of quietly shopping him just to kind of gauge market value, determine, is a trade better or a contract extension. The belief is that they would like to at least talk contract with him first to see where things go. I don't know that would be a trade that would happen quickly this week, but I wonder if the Ducks failed to get Marner, if they would want to maybe turn their attention to him, if the Dallas Stars continue to maybe consider that. We'll see. We know the Oilers are looking for goaltending help and are going to be making some changes. A couple of names to watch. Of course, we already talked about the fact that they had circled back on Swayman multiple times throughout the season. I don't know, like we discussed last night, I don't know that a Swayman trade at this point is very, very likely. The whole point of the discussion last night was wondering, would they try again? Because they've already tried multiple times. Is there any way the Bruins could be intrigued to make that move? And at this point, we're going to assume no. And some other names to watch. We know there was more word about John Gibson saying that he would accept a trade to Edmonton today. So that's a possibility out of Anaheim, of course. Wondering though if they made that move, would the Ducks want either Skinner or Pickard in return? How would that play out? Could they turn to the UFA market? I mean, Jake Allen's arguably the top goalie on the UFA market. Would a Skinner-Allen combo be something they'd be comfortable with? I really like Jake Allen. I think obviously he's a great goalie. Could be a great fit with a lot of teams, especially in a tandem or as a backup. I think that, honestly, though, I think the Oilers are going to want to go with a more proven starter if they can. But yeah, interesting. There's also word that the Flyers may also be linked to Jake Allen, almost formerly of New Jersey. Technically still a double here for a few more days, and there's still a remote chance that they make him an offer, but as of right now, it sounds like he's likely going to have a new team next year. Would be easy from a family perspective to go from the Devils to the Flyers. Wouldn't be a huge move that way, so that might be something that they take a look at. Might work well for him on a personal level. I'm not sure. Edmonton, no, if it is between looking to the free agent market like a guy like Allen, looking to a trade market like a guy like Gibson. We talked about Swayman, which is probably more of a long shot. Wondering about Demko again. I think the Canucks to trade Demko to Edmonton, probably a long shot. What about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in Buffalo? I mean, I wonder about him too. He's a name I wouldn't be shocked to see the Sabres move. I wonder how they feel about him. That could be another goalie that's might give them some stability there too. So we'll see. Now, Chris Johnson's also reporting, even though the Canucks seem to be content to keep Elias Pettersson, they are still getting inquiries, still getting calls. Teams are still inquiring, and there are still some teams out there that are interested in possibly acquiring him before the no move kicks in on July 1. So again, it still seems like a probably less likely, longer shot here that we see a move involving Pettersson, but teams are still checking in, they're still inquiring, still talking about what a deal could look like. So obviously we'll see. Obviously, by the time we get through the draft, if it's not happening, then it's likely not going to once his protection kicks in there on July 1. So we'll see where things go. Not expecting it, but teams are trying, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.